This is the Newzchain Podcast, and today we are counting down our top 7 most inspirational questions from our recent episode. So, bitsCrunch started back in 2021, right? And that was, as we all know, the COVID era. So, what was the spark of inspiration behind that? And I want to know, what made you decide to venture into the NFT space in the first place?
Yes, absolutely. bitsCrunch, if you roll back to the past, we started talking in 2020, and then materialized bitsCrunch in 2021. So if you look at the strengths of the founders and the founding team, it's all about data. So data science, data analytics, machine learning, and AI. Nowadays people talk a lot about AI because of Sam Altman and OpenAI. What they have done to the broader community. But in a way, we have been talking about bitsCrunch, we have been talking about AI since the inception, since 2020. So AI is not something that we ride upon the wave because someone else is talking about it. No, never the case. We use AI and we have products. And data science, like I said, data science has been the biggest positive. If you look at my profile, I was a data scientist at Siemens. I was a data scientist at Volkswagen, two big companies out there. And if you look at my co-founder, he holds a master's degree in data analytics from Ireland, and my CTO is a data analytics PhD in Germany, right? So that goes without saying. So we wanted to start something in data space, and that's why we came up with a name called bitsCrunch. We crunch each and every bits of data. So that's the meaning of bitsCrunch. And we started with NFTs as a space because back then it was the NFT hype. People started buying crazy JPEGs, crazy NFTs out there, and started trading, flipping, and making money out of it. And we wanted to be the police of digital assets, right? That's the whole idea, because a lot of data analytics, data charts, data visualization firms were there when we started, but we wanted to police the space. We wanted to see if there is malicious activity, if there is something going on, and we wanted to be the police. And coincidentally, funnily, my dad is a police in real life. So he was a police. He is still a police. He's retiring later this year. And that police brain sort of was there on my body and soul. So I wanted to try that out in blockchain. Glad it worked out. It is working out well. We have been building consistently, and yeah.
Say as a data scientist, right? You were training as one, and if I'm correct, Web3 and AI were at the cusp of becoming something greater than what it was back then, right? You had two choices. You could have been either in the Web3 ecosystem or in the AI ecosystem. What made you incline towards Web3 more as a data scientist?
Yes, so I always wanted to try out new stuffs, right? That there has been the curious case of Benjamin, if you ask me, right? So I always wanted to try out new things. I have been a cricketer here in Munich, even though Munich is not known for its cricketing sport. It's a very football frenzy nation, and to come up with cricket, I've led teams. I used to captain a team back in days, and then I started something that is on YouTube. When the whole influencers thing picked up, I wanted to sort of give it a shot back then. So I always try things, right? So when I wanted to start up, I wanted to be different, I wanted to be unique, I wanted to grab a space that is going to capture a lot of eyeballs and then capture a lot of market as we progress. And my gut feel was right. Back then when I did my electrical engineering, I picked up AI and data. I didn't do AI by studies. I didn't do data by my bachelor's or master's degree. I ended up as a data scientist 10 years ago. Back then data was not even a thing, to be honest. And I somehow feel that the history will repeat. Data will become data became prominent. I really hope blockchain and Web3, in particular NFT space, will also become a popular thing in 7 years from now, because it's already been 3 years. So I guess by 2030, there'll be more and more blockchain applications, more and more informations, more and more assets will be put on chain, and that is what I'm really looking forward.
And I guess you guys raised 3.6 millions after that, in scaling your operations. So that would have had a massive impact again on like the way the quality of the operation increased, the R&D for your products, right? What was the scenario within receiving the awards that came after that from the successful operations?
So yeah, I mean, yes, the first million was really tough, but then people say the next millions will follow. Yes, it followed. We raised another 3.6, which is close to $4 million, end of 2022, right? And that was not, early 2022, if I recollect. That was also not easy because I had to close bigger investors like Coinbase Ventures. Coinbase Ventures is one of the publicly listed companies in the US, and to close Animoca brands, Polygon, Chainlink was a challenging task in a way. And yeah, things went as planned. That gave us a good impetus, good force to move ahead. So we received few awards back then. We have been receiving awards since then. One of the recent awards that I would like to touch upon is getting awarded as one of the best startups in the Web3 space from Accenture, India, one of the best firms out there. And then we received the best impact startup award from PwC Germany, PricewaterhouseCoopers. And obviously getting awarded from Accenture and PwC sort of validates or puts a check mark or a tick mark on what you're building, right? Because these companies have been there, done that in a massive scale. They have foothold on more than 100 plus countries, and when you get awarded from such stalwarts, then I'm more than happy in a way.
Are there people who directly approach you for advice, particularly within the Web3? I'm pretty sure there must be. And if they do, how do they reach out to you, and how do you manage your time? Like apart from your company.
I am I'm very strict when it comes to my calendar, so I place smaller chunks on my calendar to do certain stuffs, and I'm very approachable. The team from Newzchain Podcast also reached out to me via email, so I keep looking out on my emails, my social handles. Nowadays, I don't get to look up to that a lot, as I have a team looking after that. But nevertheless, I look at my emails. Vijay Pravin Maharajan@gmail.com is where I keep reading emails every single day before I go to bed or as soon as I get up in the morning. And my social handles, now I am being followed by more than 100,000 people across my socials. 54,000 on LinkedIn, 20,000 on Instagram, and then 10-12,000 on Twitter and some other social media, right? So being followed by 100,000 actually puts a lot of weight on my shoulders, because now I'm responsible for what I talk. I'm more responsible for what I share publicly, right? So I wanted to add value. So even for this podcast, if people listen, they spend their 30-40 minutes or even an hour to listen to me. So I wanted to add value regardless of what I do, right? Be it a pod, be it a Twitter space, be it whatever. I wanted to add value at the end of the day, because that is what you can do. I can do as an entrepreneur, right? I can keep sharing, I can keep adding value to them, and it is up to the people to take it or leave it, right? Because nobody can force anyone to follow certain people, certain ideology, or a certain thing. But if you put it out there on the internet, and if people want to revisit it, people want to look back, let's say even in 2030s, this link is going to be there. It's going to be available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Podcasts. They can always go back to it and listen to this piece anytime. That's the beauty of being in a digital era.
We have been seeing a lot of scammy NFTs. We have been seeing rather a trend where NFTs values are going down. Even like the influencers, even the big memes in the Hollywood, they are selling off their NFTs. So I want to ask, how is that affecting bitsCrunch amidst all of that?
Mhm. Yes, external influences are always there in any cases, right? I remember a scenario where uh, Cristiano Ronaldo just moved a water bottle and said, "Drink water." Right? He moved away, Coke water.
Coke. They had a $4
then,
billion loss. Yeah.
Yes, they had a $4 billion loss just after the press conference, and in a matter of few hours, a few days, right? So this can happen anywhere, right? A player like Cristiano Ronaldo can move $1 billion from the market. So think of it, how many influences do we have these days? So back in days, it was pretty more centralized. There will be few actors, there will be few sportsmen, but today we have n number of influences. There are more influences these days than I call startups, right? If you go and count startups in Bengaluru, I guess influences are like 5x, 10x of that number, right? So you can easily influence people, and if you do a targeted marketing, anything is possible these days, right? If you bring in Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo as a brand ambassador, I guess you can turn into $1 billion company, right? So in this world, yes, external factors can affect your game, can also propel your game. It is on how you see things, how you perceive things, and in a way that is not under your control, right? I always say some things can be controlled, not everything can be controlled, right? Same like how Dhoni says, these are not the controllables, these are not under your control, right? So as an entrepreneur, as a builder, if you focus on external things, and if that affects you, then that will obviously create a dent on the business. Like I mentioned, keeping yourself in good shape, keeping yourself intact is very important, as keeping the employees happy, looking after the business, and so on. So external things fluctuate. So today, whoever is buying might be selling it the next day or the next year, right? I mean, why a person is buying something, obviously he would love to flip, trade that, or sell something off after a while. So that is everywhere. You can see that everywhere. So, yeah.
Even though AI's evolution is a game changer, but it's still you are, or rather an individual, still have to be like considerable of the market dynamics like you have, which makes me like curious about like NFT situation yet again. NFT saw a boost in Europe and North America, like when it was at its peak a couple of years ago. So how does the shift, now South America adapting to it, especially Southeast Asia, India is a big market for NFT as well. How have you guys been preparing for these kind of shifts?
Mhm. So yes, there has been a lot of traction, a lot of eyeballs around Southeast Asia, especially for the NFT space, and the West has always been spending a lot on blockchain, right? If you look at the blockchain space, even though US seem to be rigid in terms of blockchain rules and laws and regulations, they have been deploying a lot of capital into the market by developing, by innovating stuffs. They've had a good chunk of startups coming out of US every year, right? And if you look at the NFT space, most of the users are pretty much from the Southeast Asian zone, where people from Thailand, Indonesia, India, China, they have been early adopters of the digital era, digital realm, and that's been a shift that we are focusing on both ends, right? We have on the one end, we wanted to cater to the needs of the West. On the other hand, we wanted to cater to the needs of these pockets where social digital digital world, NFTs and digital assets are widely talked about. And there is also Dubai, which has been a go-to place for a lot of founders in the space. So every single region is different, and in a way, marketing is needed in a different way for all these pockets, because you cannot market the same product which you market in the US with the same template here in Southeast Asia. That doesn't work. So finding the right way to approach the problem was also a tricky thing, and I'm glad that we have a team that has people to focus on different pockets. So yeah, in a way it's good, and it's also a learning curve, right? We are still growing. I will not say that we have achieved this in this region. Rather, I would say we are growing. We are constantly evolving, and by the time we get the right data out, that is when people can see things in general.
You have a massive experience, and everyone in Newzchain team can just like look up to you in terms of that. What advice would you give to startups entering the NFT or rather broader Web3 and blockchain space?
For any space, be it blockchain or be it AI or any space, as a founder, I would say remain humble, because if you raise 10, 20 or $100 million, the ball might turn against you the very next year or the years later, a few years later, right? So it's not about how much capital you raise, how much revenue you make. Always stay grounded and stay focused on why you started, where you wanted to go, and what you want to achieve in this journey, right? Rather than focusing on fancy things. So just focus on the fundamentals. I would suggest every founder out there to focus on the fundamentals, focus on what's there, what problem you solve, and are you adding value to your customers, are you adding value to the clients, the investors, and the people that are following you. Just focus on the fundamentals, and just don't fret a lot about the external factors. Yes, in startup world today you could be a $1 billion company, the very next year you could be a 300 mil, where your price gets slashed by 70%. That can happen. So enjoy the ride. There will be ups and downs, there will be zigzag curves on the way, but make sure to keep holding on to the thread. That would be my advice.
If you want to watch or listen to the full episode, you can find us on all audio and video platforms out there. We release new episodes every Wednesday and Saturday. So subscribe and follow us for more updates and other fun releases.